Barry, when did you first discover you had psychic abilities?
When I studied astrology back in 1991, then at the end of the diploma course I found that part of the course was tarot, and I really enjoyed doing the tarot and found a connection with it. After that, I was thrown in the deep end at the Mind Body Spirit Festival one day, asked to do some readings, totally unexpectedly, and it just went on from there. That was my first professional time at the Mind Body Spirit Festival, filling in for a couple of hours, and it was like a duck to water, and away I went. So it's basically about 22 years ago now that all this happened. But I've always felt intuitive. I've always been attracted to that whole area. I used to do a lot of radio programs through the 80s and 90s in this area.
What was the reception when you first started doing radio programs in this area? First with the radio station you were with, and also with the public?
Well, I was with a leading commercial station in Sydney, Australia, and at the time it was a bit sort of na-na stuff. Oh, well, there he is. But having had a profile as a talkback host, a news and sports presenter and whatever, it helped a lot. But there was still a certain reticence, and particularly then when I went on to become more full-time news in the 90s, news presenter on the ABC here, there were a few people that looked at me as, oh, he's a bit flaky, isn't he?
Did that worry you, Barry?
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, there's a funny story one day, one of the typical old journos came in and said, Eaton, he says, you're a psychic. What about a tip of the races today? So without even thinking, I said, okay, race 5, this afternoon, horse number 6. Oh, yeah, right. The next day, I looked it up, and race 5, horse number 6 came in at about 14-1. So I said to him, hey, Tom, did you back the winner I gave you yesterday? What do you mean a winner? I said, yeah. He said, a 1. I said, yes, of course. What do you think? And he went, oh, my God. Ended up getting me a little plug in a newspaper about that one. So, psychic stuff can come to you at the drop of a hat. I wasn't trying to pick a winner, but it just was given to me from somewhere. I don't know, but anyway, it was there.
Barry, you said somewhere you don't know. Where does your psychic ability come from? How do you explain it?
Well, it's part of your intuition, and we're connected through that part of us. I've written about it in my book Afterlife, which we'll talk about on another occasion. But there's part of our soul that's left over in the world of spirit when we come here. We call it the higher self. And that is tuned into many things. It knows what we're supposed to be doing. It knows our soul path. And it also can tune in. We've all got these abilities, but once we connect with it, so it comes from within as well as the soul connection that we have.
What areas have you explored, Barry?
Oh, so many of them. I started off with astrology, which is a wonderful basis of everything. From there on, I moved off into psychic readings, clairvoyant stuff. And then in the late 90s, because I lost a partner who passed away, I was then given sort of permission by a medium, communicating with the other side, to keep in touch with her. So my medium skills really opened up then, which I've been investigating more and more. So much so that in 2012, my partner and I went over and we did a course at the Arthur Findlay College in Stansted in London, which was like a postgraduate course, really. This is the best medium training college in the world. So we did a week's residency there. So now I feel my medium skills are really, really jumping.
What did you learn there, Barry?
I learned different ways of tuning in to people, that you don't need to sit there with a deck of cards in front of you. The trouble is, people do really feel that you need something, otherwise you might be just making it up. But I learned to be able to look at something. I could look at you, for instance, and colours would come to me, and then I would allow those colours to be able to be interpreted into whatever you needed at this particular moment. So I can't really look and say that at the moment because you've got a very green outdoor background behind you, so all I'm seeing is green. But if we were sitting in a room and I was doing a reading for you, yes, I could use colours. I can also just hold your hand. I can pick up something of yours, which is a watch. I like watches, and tune into your energy through that. So there's many, many different ways that we can tune into people.
Has this helped you in your own life, having these skills, other than being a psychic?
Oh, very much so. It's the simplest things like, gee, I need a parking spot. So I create a parking spot. That's the simplest. I can teach you how to do that in about 2 minutes. But there are other things when you're not quite sure about a direction in life or a decision you've got to make. So to go away and just calm your mind down, do a quiet time, call it a meditation if you like, whatever. Go inside yourself and ask what I need to do, and to be able to find your own direction and trust in that direction. Open your heart, open your mind. Really important.
Barry, you spoke about just then asking. Okay, is the reply coming as a feeling? Is it coming as words? How is that reply coming to you?
That reply comes in many different ways. Sometimes there will be a feeling, a thought, a knowing. Other times I might visualize something. An image will be sent to me. And other times words, because I'm very audio, having worked in radio a lot of words just come into me. But they come as thoughts, because that's the way people in spirit communicate. So I know I'm in touch with people on the other side. I know I'm in touch with my guides, and they do help me at various times. So the information comes in many different ways, and you've just got to be open to that.
So with you, Barry, if your guides send you a message, how do you know it's from your guides?
Because I've tuned into them beforehand. And if I'm walking down the street and I get a message, well, I've got to then tune in and say, okay, is that message actually the message I need to hear right now? Is it something I want to pass on to somebody? Is it something that I want to check up later? Do I trust it? But if I get a message that's quite stupid and it's self-destructive or harmful in any way, I know that message is just created, who knows where, who cares where. But I know that the message that comes in when I'm doing a reading for somebody or tuning into somebody, because I've asked for it beforehand, I've opened myself up to connect to spirit, to be able to do those readings.
Barry, you mentioned tuning in. Is that going into a meditative state?
A semi-meditative state. Yes, when I tune in beforehand, say I was working at a Mind, Body, Spirit festival, which I've done quite a few over the years. At the beginning of the day, I would close my eyes, open my ask to be connected to my guides and those people who are helping me, ask to open myself up, and I visualize. I end up in doing this, I go down this great big long tunnel with all these stars flashing past me, almost Star Trek style, and I know I'm going through some kind of tunnel almost, and I connect with the other side. And once I do that, then I know. Then I can back that up also, because I also use pendulums a lot. They're a wonderful way of being able to confirm things with a pendulum. Once you've opened up, and I can confirm all sorts of information that way.
How did you learn that?
It was given to me to start. It was shown to me back in the early days of my working as a psychic, and I just resonated with it. And then I've experimented, and I've learned how to be able to use a pendulum so that you are getting the right information, because you've got to clear your mind, because your mind can control the way a pendulum goes. So you've got to be very, very open-minded. Otherwise, you can get all sorts of false information.
Barry, I've read your website, and in one part there you say that you had a message from your guides to move some years ago.
I did.
Was that difficult to uproot yourself and move to the other side of the state?
It was very difficult, but I felt so strongly about it that despite creating sort of some personal problems and whatever, I felt that I needed to do that, and I haven't regretted it, because when I moved up there, the first thing I did was to be able to write my second book, and which is coming out in February 2014. And I could not have written that book unless I was in the area that I live in now. It just would have been virtually impossible. So I was being led there in many ways so that I would have the access to all that information, all those contacts.
Barry, when you meet other psychics, what's the first thing you ask them?
How are you feeling today? I've never thought about it.
Is there any comparing or...
Oh, no. It's not. Look, there can be a lot of jealousy amongst in people in this area, but I've never really sort of had a problem, because I don't hang out with a bunch of psychics. I don't go to sort of psychic parties and things like that. we're going to a big dinner very shortly for a 30th anniversary of the Australian Psychics Association. But apart from that, no, I've got a couple of psychic friends, and we would just sit down. We respect each other, and we just talk about things that most people talk about, mainly spiritual type things.